Question, everybody. If someone or something could judge your remaining lifespan, do you want to know the answer? Welcome to Alex's Story Time, and I am Alex. Everyone, this story is called facial recognition, and it is told in the first person, but this is not my story. Here is the story. A few years ago, I was a member of a company's technical research team, but not the kind that wears lab coats and handle chemicals. Our work focused on the research of camera-based facial recognition system and applications. We would install the application software into a main computer and then input footage from surveillance cameras from various locations. After recognizing the faces, the system would automatically generate a set of data. For example, it would create data like ID 0001 moving from X to Y to Z. This kind of technology was already quite common at the time, so we built on facial recognition software by adding additional functions. We were willing to try anything. Initially, we worked on an age estimation function, which you might have heard of. The principle is similar to weather forecasting. We input thousands of combinations of faces and ages into the computer. After recognizing a face, the system could compare it to the correct data to calculate an estimated value. The method was simple, but the accuracy was surprisingly high. During the experimental stage, it achieved around 40% accuracy, with an error margin of about plus or minus 8 years. It was quite fascinating, but we continued to challenge ourselves with similar age estimation tasks, striving to create more unique functions. Fortunately, we had a vast collections of facial photos and personal data at our disposal, allowing us to experiment with various aspects such as names, education levels, and places of birth, and others. Predicting names was, of course, impossible. Such discrete data is beyond the computer's comprehension. However, the results of our education level estimation were unexpectedly good. We divided education levels into 4 categories: junior high school graduation, high school graduation, college graduation, and graduation from top-tier universities. The accuracy rate was as high as 60%. For birthplace estimation, we inputted continuous data from a specific province into the computer and achieved an accuracy rate of nearly 10%. Don't dismiss it as only 10%. That's already quite remarkable. Humans can roughly estimate someone's age, but guessing someone's birthplace correctly even once in 10 tries is virtually impossible. Moreover, with a sufficient numbers of samples, the computer's prediction become even more accurate. One day, a team researcher named Lee proposed a rather outrageous idea. He said, "Let's do residual life prediction. That is, estimating how much time someone has left to live." He was probably influenced by the then popular anime Death Note. Of course, our sample of personal data did not include information on remaining lifespan. We used photos of historical figures whose years of birth and death were known. Although some photos were in black and white, they shouldn't have significantly affected the recognition accuracy. Certainly, the resolution of black and white photos is lower than that of color photos, but in terms of facial recognition, it is almost not an issue. However, this approach led to a shortage of samples. We only needed to know the date of the photo was taken and the date of death. So we included victims of natural disasters and accidents as well. But wouldn't this mix in samples of people who died due to external factors? He said it didn't matter. It seemed he wasn't aiming to infer a person's health status from their appearance, but rather to make the computer act like a fortune teller. Using samples of deceased individuals, there was some psychological resistance, but we were all curious people and got to work immediately. We input photos and data bit by bit every day. The remaining lifespan was calculated by subtracting the photo taking date from the date of death. After a few weeks, we had accumulated 2,000 samples. Then came the actual testing. Since we did not know the correct answers, we couldn't calculate the error values. The first guinea pig was me. After the system was activated, I stood in front of the camera and it looked onto my face quickly. After a few seconds, the output was 60. Considering the average male lifespan of 80 years, this seemed about right. I forgot to mention that we were all in our early 20s except for our project manager, who was in his 30s. Other team members took turns testing, but the sample size was indeed insufficient, leading to inconsistent results. 23 years, 100 years, 12 years, 75 years, 42 years. The answers were all over the place. The most shocking was Lee, who was judged by the computer to have 0 years left. It was clear that making the computer mimic a fortune teller was impossible, but we had already manually inputted 2,000 pieces of data and couldn't just abandon it. That night, we used the auto-generation mode to let the computer read footage from cameras stored on the company's server. The next day, the computer spat out thousands of recognition results. After statistical processing, we got an interesting finding. The estimated values varied greatly depending on the location of the camera. For example, in the footage we analyzed, the average predicted remaining lifespan from cameras set up in elementary schools was about 86 years, a huge difference compared to the overall average of 46 years. Conversely, the first location that had a significant lower average than the overall average was a footage from a highway service area, where the average was 38 years. Was this reflecting traffic safety issues? The second to last average remaining lifespan was from a nursing home within the county, with an average of 15 years. And the last place, which you might have guessed. Yes, it was the hospital, with an average of just 4 years. But even for a hospital, an average remaining lifespan of 4 years seemed off, considering many children with long futures ahead of them were sent there for minor injuries. There must have been some mistake somewhere. When we checked the raw data, we were all stunned. ID 1254 had a remaining lifespan of 34 years displayed on the screen. But there were also several numbers that shouldn't have existed among the ordinary numbers like 34 and 50. Negative numbers. Just to be sure, we also checked data from other places and found 2 or 3 negative numbers in each location, but none had as many at the hospital. If taken literally, a remaining lifespan of -3 years remaining the person had died 3 years ago. Because there were many people with negative remaining lifespans, the hospital's average remaining lifespan was significantly lowered. Although we tried to stay calm, we were all sweating profusely. Later, we discussed it as a team, but only came to an unpleasant conclusion. Either the error in our remaining lifespan prediction was too large to be credible, or there were people with negative remaining lifespans walking around nonchalantly. Of course, we ultimately adopted the former conclusion and cautiously wrote a report on using facial recognition to investigate health conditions, which we submitted to our superiors. This plan was then buried in obscurity. We pass by hundreds of people every day, making eye contact. How can we be sure none of them have a negative remaining lifespan? Oh, I almost forgot to mention one more thing. Less than a year after the computer judged Lee to have 0 years left, he really did die, jumping off a subway platform in a crowded morning commute. Why could the computer predict this? There's no answer. The only data the computer had were the samples and the subject's faces. But the fact is, Lee died just as the computer had predicted. There's a term called death face. The appearance someone presents when they are about to die. Some psychics claim to know when someone is close to death. I don't want to believe in unscientific things, but after this incident, I found cameras and crowds terrifying. Unless there's a life-threatening necessity, I no longer go near hospitals. This is the end of the whole story, everybody. And now, let me share my own experience. Note, everybody, this is my experience. My hometown is in Dezhou, Shandong province. In his old age, my maternal grandpa's health was extremely poor. So my mother invited the best local doctor to treat him. We had agreed that grandpa would be put on IV fluids for several days, but the very next day the doctor failed to show up. When I called him to ask why, he said, "John, tell your mother to stop treatment. Don't waste your money. Your grandpa's pulse has already turned into a death pulse." A death pulse is a pulse quality that traditional Chinese doctors can feel with their fingers. By that signals a person is nearing death. Sure enough, a few days later, my grandpa passed away. Unfortunately, this doctor died in an accident 2 years later, in the year 2008, before Olympics Beijing. His first son is one of my classmates in elementary school, and his family name is Gao. The doctor named Gao Qinglian. The translation of his name is Pure Lotus. This is what I know about how to judge people's remaining lifespan. So everybody, please share what you think of the story and your stories. If you enjoy my work and would like to help me continue to bring this story to you, please subscribe to my channel or like my page. Give us a thumbs up to the stories you appreciate, and share your thoughts, opinions in the comments. I'd love to read them. Share the stories with anyone who might find them enjoyable. And I need a co-editor, a native English speaker, to make these stories better. Take care, everybody. This is Alex's Story Time, and I am Alex. I got a lot of good stories to share with you. So, see you next time. Bye-bye.